Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is going to be the first lesson that will begin with intermediate solid modeling techniques in Autodesk Inventor. We're going to be starting off with the bevel washer today. So we're going to begin by getting into Inventor, going to New, making sure English is selected under Templates, and selecting Standard inch.ipt and Create. Now, switching over to the hub, so here is the module, Intermediate Solid Modeling Autodesk Inventor, and we're going to start by selecting the bevel washer PDF document. And we're just going to orient this into a view that will make it easier for us to understand, like this. All right, so a few things we have to note before we get started is that there is no overall length given on the bevel washer. And I'm just looking at the base. So there's a radius at the front that has a value of 2.5. And the origin, or the center point of that arc, radius, is where this plus sign is. And there's a dimension running from there to the very back of the base at 3.375. So I have to add this dimension and the radius up to find the overall length. If I add these together, it should be 5 7/8 or 5.875, but the software will confirm it when we get started. The next thing we have to look at is how do we figure out what the overall width is, because it's not listed on the drawing anywhere either. But again, the radius is listed as 2.5, and if you remember from the control bracket drawing, if we don't know the width and we have a radius at the front like this, we can just multiply it by 2, and that will give us the width, right? So again, it's like the entire circle is drawn on this thing, and we can multiply this number by 2, and that will be, so from here to here is 2.5 as the radius, and then from here to here is 2.5. We add those two together, we're going to come up with 5 inches. So, bit of review there. And the last thing we need to look at is how are we going to get the face of the bevel washer extruded to the base on this angle. So the easiest way to do this is to use what's called a work plane. And this is going to be something brand new that we haven't looked at before that's going to help us create this 3D model. So this will be the last time I show this image in the lesson. Make sure when you complete the bevel washer on your own, you have it open on your iPad next to you while you work. And I keep saying that, and I just want to mention, I've noticed in another one of my classes that just a couple of students, they have their iPad open next to their computer, but they're not looking at this screen or one of my other reference drawings to help them get started. They're basically have my video open, and they're just copying everything I'm doing in my video. So they watch my video for a few moments, pause it, do what I do, and then keep going like that. And that could really affect you in test performance, because anybody can just copy my video. But the purpose of this video is for you to watch it once or maybe twice, and then take what you've learned from it like you would in a regular lesson, and then apply it to your work. So you actually have to critically think these things through. You can't just rely on my videos to kind of walk you through everything, because when it comes time to do a test, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because you're not going to be able to independently think through what you need to do. So just something I wanted to mention. To get started now, we're going to click into Inventor. I've already opened this up. I'm going to hit 2D Sketch, and I'm going to select the XY plane. And then I'm going to begin by sketching the front view of the base on this plane, right? So the XY plane gives me the front view. So I'm going to select Line, find 0, 0 at the origin, and I'm going to be coming up, and I'm just going to be making a sketch of that base. So I'm coming over, make sure I'm coming down perpendicular, pick up X0 and come back to Y0 right here. Right click, left click, OK. Right, so we have, again, these two lines, this line on Y, this line on X, they are connected to 0, 0 at the origin. They're already purple because they're connected. Now we need to constrain the rest of the geometry. So we're going to hit dimension, and I'm just going to follow the sheet. This needs to be 0.75 high. This dimension needs to be 0.5. And from here to the back of the base is 0.625. Check mark. We have one dimension left, the overall length. So from the back to the front, run a dimension. Again, we just talked about this. This is 3.375, and we're going to add the radius, 2.5, and hit check mark. All right, so now this is all constrained. It's all purple. We can hit finish sketch, and we can extrude. Now, how much are we extruding the base? We talked about this as well. This is going to be the radius value, 2.5, and it multiplies by 2. So we can shift and press 8. That's the asterisk or the star, whatever you want to call it, and then type 2. So that means multiplication. Then we're going to hit OK. So there's our base. We're just going to orbit this around, take a look at it. Okay, it looks good. I'm going to look at this from the left and then go into an ISO view. All right, so now we're at the point where we need to add the work plane. So up in work features, this is where we're going to find our work plane. So we're going to select the drop down arrow and we're going to select angle to plane around edge. Now, this could be a little bit difficult to get started. So what you can do is select this top edge and this back face. And it's going to preview, it hasn't created the plane yet, but it's just creating a little preview. And what you can do is we can just take a look at this from the front and we can see what it's doing. So it's basically created a 90-degree plane resting totally flat on top of the base of the bevel washer. But I want this to be 30 degrees pivoted off this corner edge at the top right here. So if this is 90 degrees and I want 30, and the way it's created the plane, I'm going to want to add 30 to 90. So I'm going to want this to be 120 degrees. So I'm going to update that, and you can see if I orbit this, what it's doing, right? It's again, it's perfect. It's pivoting it off the top edge at the back, and this is the equivalent of 30 degrees, adding 30 to the 90. So once I'm happy with this, I can hit the check mark, and it creates the work plane. So there, we have it. So this plane is a surface that we can create a 2D sketch on. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. So I'm going to go to 2D sketch again, select the work plane, and it orients the work plane view into a 2D perspective. Right? Look at the cube. Right? The cube is on an angle, but the plane is flat to my side of view here. So what we're going to do next is create the beveled washer on top of the base. So I'm going to select a rectangle this time, and I'm going to make sure I don't pick this line when it comes up, but this one right here. And see what that does? It wants to lock, it already constrains the bottom of the rectangle to that edge that the plane is pivoted off of. So that means this isn't gonna move from that edge. but I have the rest of the geometry green, which now I can constrain. So again, and I'm following along on the sheet, I'm going to run a general dimension from here to the edge of the base, and I'm going to update this to be 0.5. I'm also going to do the same thing on the other side. One dimension left, which is the overall length. So from here to here, and we're going to be doing this the same way we did the base. So the way it's dimensioned on the sheet, it's 2.6875 from that edge here, plus the smaller radius, which is going to be 2. And we're going to hit check mark. And now that's fully constrained. So there's our sketch. You know, it's perfectly where it needs to be. Now we can extrude it. Now this is going to be a new way to extrude. So what we can do, let's go into an ISO view between left and front like this. We're going to hit finish sketch, and we're going to hit extrude. We're going to select. Now see what it wants to do? It wants to force this extrusion through the base, which is unacceptable. So what we're going to do is at extent under distance, because it remembers the last entry, right? This is what I extruded the width to be. I don't want it to be 2.5 times 2. I don't want it 5 inches. So I'll just hit the distance arrow and say to next. So it's going to extrude the entire sketch, and it's going to stop it as soon as any part of it hits the base. I don't even need to put a value in. I just have to select to next. Once I've done that, because this top of the base here is the termination, right? It's the terminator to the extrusion. So we're going to hit OK, and I have it. Now this work plane here is no longer needed, but I don't want to delete it, right? I'd like to keep it in case I need it to edit something. So in the project browser where it says work plane 1, I can right click that, and I can go down to visibility and left click this, and that will turn the visibility off. So the work plane is still there, but I don't need it. I don't need to see it anymore. So I'm just going to keep it and uncheck it. So if I want to put it back on, I can go right click work plane, left click visibility, and so on, and turn it on and off like a light switch. But I'll be leaving it off at this point. So the next step would be to create the inside radius of the washer first. Now, creating the outside one first would cause a modeling error, and I know this from experience. So I'm going to select fillet, and the value is 2 inches. So we're going to type 2. Let's orbit this a bit, and we're going to select this edge and the opposite, and hit OK. So that is the start of our bevel washer. It has the radius curve it needs, and we can also do the front. So we're going to hit fillet again. This time we're updating it to say 2.5. Select this edge, and then hit OK. And we've got the shape of it. We have one last thing to do, and that is to create the hole. So again, 2D sketch, we're going to select the top face, and we're going to grab a circle, and I'm just touching the inside 2-inch radius with my cursor. I don't need to click anything, but when I touch it, it reveals to me the origin right here. So it gives me this black dot here that I can just snap my cursor to. It goes green. Draw my circle, and then constrain its diameter with a dimension. This will make it go purple. 1 dimension to constrain it. The diameter is listed as 3. Check mark. finish sketch, extrude. We don't want to join extrusion, we want to cut. So we're going to say cut, and we can change this to be all. So as in extrude cut through all, hit OK, and that is the bevel washer. Now, in the past, I've had students who were able to complete it without the work plane, but with way more steps. And if you ask me, this is the easiest and quickest way to create this by using the work plane. So work plane is a very, very handy thing, and the need to use it will come up quite a bit in an intermediate drawing and beyond. So very handy to know how to use that. That's kind of the learning goal of this model, is to understand how that works. So we're going to save this now. We're going to call this bevel washer. Save. And that is the end of this lesson. So give it a try and have fun. Take care for now.